Sahana bhavatu sahana bhunaktu saha viryam karavavahai tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. We have been studying about how the three gunas affect every aspect of our actions, every aspect of how we live our life. Just to briefly recapitulate, the tamas is the lowest state mental temperament. The three gunas are a classification of our mental temperaments. Tamas is the lowest state. It consists of ignorance, indolence, and inertia, laziness, not wanting to do something, not interested in things. All this becomes part of tamas. Rajas is the state of wanting to do a lot, the state of desires, and thereby mental agitation, stress, competition, lot of value for achievement. All of this exists in the state of rajas. And then there is the state of sattva. Sattva is the trans-active state. It is a state of clarity and purity. It is the state of complete peace and bliss. You feel extremely happy, comfortable, peaceful, whatever word you wish to use. It is called transactive not because people are not working when they are sattvic, but because they work so efficiently that it does not appear to us as action. So they are the highest, the most productive people. They will actually achieve the most, but it will appear to others that they are doing nothing. Like imagine Buddha. To you and me and all of us, we see he's sitting there. Sometimes he's lying down, but he's achieved a lot, right? I mean, of course, he achieved the goal of human existence, which is amazing. But what about also setting up a whole institution? And I mean, all his worldly things were as good. There's no dirt. The fact that we can talk about him 5,000 years later. I mean, like, do you think he's more famous or do you think Justin Bieber is more famous? So, in every sense of the term, done much more than everybody else. In the main thing, obviously, but in everything else as well. So, these are the three states that our mentality can rest in. Please note, these are a classification of the mental temperaments. Somehow we want to always convert this to action. This is not a classification of action. It's a classification of mental temperaments, as you are about to see, even in action. He is not telling you what type of actions, but what kind of thing backed those actions. So, being able to understand primarily these three gunas is extremely important in life because it is a way of making sense of the world we live in. You understand yourself, you understand others, and hopefully, as a consequence of understanding, you will also do it right. It will be difficult to understand something completely and then don't connect with it properly. Of course, you will relate with it properly. So each one we are going to take up. The first one is jnana. Okay, what kind of knowledge does a tamasic, rajasic, and sattvic person have? This is important to us because we are in the field of knowledge. At least my understanding that is nothing else. Right? So let's go.
So Ankitji, we have to do the intellect bit. We started that last week.
Oh, yeah. The order is different, right? Okay, so yeah, that's correct. Okay, thank you, Bharat. Okay, so we started intellect buddhi last time. What is a buddhi? Since we're all the time trying to develop a buddhi, we must at least know what it is. Can anybody give me a meaning of the word buddhi?
Wisdom.
Okay.
The higher mind.
Okay.
Is it your ability to question what your mind is thinking and analyze before you take some action?
Yes, okay.
Where thoughts are discriminated.
Correct.
Digested knowledge.
The discrimination power in us.
That's right. So Varsha, Jyoti, the exact meaning of the word buddhi is discrimination. Okay, that's what it means, discrimination. What does discrimination mean? It means the capacity to tell two things apart. You can tell two things apart, like tall and short, big and small, man and woman. All this discrimination happens in the buddhi. The world is nothing but pairs of opposites, right? There are these two things always. There's day and night. There's good and bad. There is whatever, intelligent, not intelligent, loving, hating, active, lazy. The world is nothing but these pairs. The intellect alone has the capacity to distinguish between these pairs. Even a dog can distinguish between these pairs. He can tell what is his food and what is not his food. He can tell who is his master and who is not his master, who is an outsider. He can tell this. He can tell who he can mate with and who he cannot mate with. He understands that. He's able to discriminate. So we say they have a rudimentary discrimination. Human beings also often have a rudimentary discrimination. They don't know what to eat, what not to eat. They don't know who is friend, who is enemy. They don't know who to mate with, who not to mate with. This is something crazy, right? You marry the wrong people, you associate with the wrong people. You have a rudimentary intellect. You don't know what is to be done and what is not to be done. So intellect means discrimination. Discrimination is the faculty to tell two things apart. Intellect is discrimination. Discrimination is the ability to tell two things apart. The better you are at telling this apart, the better your buddhi. Because at some stage, things are not so dramatically apart. Right? Let's suppose you're following the line of thought, which I believe you're all doing very well. So if you're following the line of thought, are you able to say this is in the line of thought? This is not in the line of thought. So as it gets subtler, it gets more and more difficult, you need a sharper and sharper intellect to be able to tell that difference. But basically, intellect means the capacity to tell the difference. That's what it means. Now, in life, okay, so we have a buddhi. Why? So that we can use our buddhi and make something useful out of our life, right? That's why we have a buddhi. So what is the first thing we have to do with our buddhi? Choose a field of action. Which field will I enter? Which field will I not enter? For a human being, nothing seems to be clear. It's really amazing. Which field to enter, which field not to enter. For instance, you can have very preliminary discrimination. This is my swadharmic field. This is not my swadharmic field. Okay, so if my swadharma, my nature is to be a carpenter, then I should not go and be a plumber for any reason. Oh, there's more money for plumbers. Oh, plumbers are in greater demand. Oh, my father is a plumber. For no reason. This is not me. This is not my nature. This is so primary, right? What is the confusion over here? For no reason should you do that. It's just like saying, for no reason should you use a mixer instead of a washing machine. Isn't that correct? For no reason. Oh, my washing machine has broken down. Let me use the mixer. No, for no reason can you use the mixer instead of the washing machine. Okay, so each equipment is made in a particular way. And you have to use it in that way. You have no option here. Okay, so first thing that the intellect says, ye mera bas ka hai ki nahi hai. This much at least I must be able to tell. Basic discrimination. Okay, now suppose you said, okay, this is according to line of my equipment and I should be doing this thing. Right. Then when you enter that field, the second level of discrimination starts, which is, what should I be doing in this field? For instance, let us say that you decided that your swadharma is spirituality. Swadharma doesn't mean everything. You are interested in spirituality. So then you have to ask yourself, what am I? Am I a karma yogi? Am I a bhakta? Or am I a jnani? First question. Because that's the field you're going to enter. Let us say now, for argument's sake, you decided you're a jnani. That's why you came to a Vedanta class. Obviously, because if you're not a jnani, you will not stay here. You will not be able to continue here. Unless somebody hangs on to you and ties you up, you will not be able to relate to the class. So you have arrived here to do Jnana Yoga. Now, when you arrive to do Jnana Yoga, you have many, many options, right? You can do this book also, you can do that book also, you can take up this act also, you can take up that one also. So many things you'll get. So many options will open up. Now you have to use your discrimination and say, which is the most effective? What is the best use of my time? Let me do that one. Because I can't do everything. So let me choose what is the thing I ought to do. So even in a field, we need the discrimination to say what we need to do. It's not just in the original choice of the field, but in the field itself. Same thing if you decide to take up a job or a profession or whatever in the world you decide to take up, even in office. You can say, I'll do this, whatever task, or I won't do this task, whatever. You have to choose. Where will you spend your time? Your time is the most precious thing you have. So where will you spend it? That it will be used to the best possible use. Most of us spend our time in the past and in the future. Nature of the mind. कल क्या हुआ और कल क्या होने वाला है? I am more interested in that. More people are interested in, have I grown spiritually than
the other person.
Growing spiritually, then actually growing spiritually.
Then getting up in the morning and studying.
No study.
and not doing what you need to do, and you're checking, have I grown? Have I grown? Why are you checking whether you've grown? You check whether you're doing what you should be doing. If you're doing what you should be doing, how can you not grow? Did you not first think that this is the cause, this is the effect? Did you understand that before you took up an action? If you understood this and took up an action, then it's like, you put the water on the gas, you put on the gas, the water is there, you don't have to keep watching it, it will boil. What are you watching it for? You can do your whatever else you need to do. So longing for fruit is standing there and watching the water. Is it boiling? Is it boiling? What do you mean, is it boiling? It has no option but to boil. It has to just arrive. Certain circumstances have to take place, which I have started. They will take place and the water will boil. I have to stand there saying, oh my God, I don't know if it will boil or not. I wonder how to tell whether it will boil or not. Pagal hai yaar, don't waste time. It's actually quite simple, no? When you see it in a sort of practical sense, it's not a very complicated thing. Figure out the cause and effect. Having figured the cause and effect, do the action, forget about the effect. Because the effect has no option but to come. Quite simple. So, good buddhi means you know firstly. You know what?
Your field of action.
Your field of action. Good buddhi, secondly, means you know
The right action in that field.
the right action in that field. Because we can't. No, now we are studying Vedanta treatise. Now, what about Yoga Vashishta? Shouldn't we study that? Isn't that an excellent book? Of course, it's an excellent book. It's a great book. But we are doing Vedanta treatise. Why don't we do that? We start Vedanta treatise. Then no, Vashishta is very good. And you run over there. Then you start reading that. So, oh my God, Kenu Upanishad, I've heard so much for. Then you run over there. Chill. One thing and one thing excellently should be our motto in life. Do one thing. Do that super. Not running here and running there. And then when you understand that, you realize that if you understand any one book of spirituality, any book if you understand, you understood them all. You don't have to run from book to book. You just need to understand it. Okay, so that is buddhi. Firstly, intellect means discrimination. Discrimination means telling things apart. A good buddhi is able to tell which is a field I should enter and which is a field I should not enter. It is also able to tell in the field which is an action I should do and which is an action I shouldn't do. And how usefully can I use my time? Every one of us gets 24 hours. What do you want to do with the 24 hours? You want to waste it thinking, ye hua, ro hua. Okay, that's your choice. But then that's your life. Whatever you choose to make it. All right, so that was the first. I think we did the first paragraph. Now let us go to the second paragraph. Who will read this paragraph?
I can read.
Please do.
The Sattvic intellect also understands what is to be feared and what ought not to be feared. Certain facets of the world are dreadful. They are detrimental, even fatal. Other facets are Other facets are beneficial, valuable. Most people in the world court what is fearful and repel what is not. They would freely indulge in the deadly senses, but dread to take the path of knowledge and renunciation. So has Alexander Pope observed. Fools rush in where angels fear to tread. The Sattvic intellect chooses the right path. So it says that the Sattvic intellect knows which field is something to stay away from and which field is good for us. And we tend to do the opposite. We tend to go into the field which is detrimental for us.
V10 means the intellect which is not developed
Which is, yeah.
cannot tell this difference. So correct. So the third thing the intellect does is to tell the difference between what should be we should be frightened of what and what we should not be frightened of. Somebody criticizes us, what is there to be frightened? Somebody has pointed out something which is probably negative, it gives you a chance, it's a red flag. Is it really so? Chance to see. Somebody praises us, time to be frightened. Time to be frightened means unnecessarily you go on a chakkar because somebody praised you at something. So what is to be feared and what is not to be feared? We are completely unafraid of staying up late at night, but we are frightened of getting up early in the morning. Oh my God, early in the morning. But staying up at night doesn't frighten us. We don't think, my God, if I stay up at night, tamas will seep into my system. No such fear. I'm frightened of becoming sattvic. Amazing, isn't it? Amazing. Who are the people I should be with? Who are the people I should avoid being with? What are those things that I should go to freely? And what are those things that I should go to with great fear? I should be extremely frightened of speaking ill of anybody. I should be extremely frightened of making random comments, of saying things which I myself have not verified whether they are true or false. Should be frightened, no, of making all these impulsive statements. So many people say so many things. And you ask them one question about it, they have no idea what they're talking about. And yet, very confidently state something. We have to be frightened of our confidence. We don't have to be frightened of questioning. So, whenever the intellect is developed, it understands what is to be feared and what is not to be feared. Eating that gulab jamun, is it to be feared or is going for a jog to be feared? Which one is to be feared? Having a negative thought in your head is to be feared, or having a positive thought in your head is to be feared? Nobody knows. Suppose you have a bad thought. Suppose in your mind you say, oh, Amrita is like that. And nobody knows, including Amrita. But you have just pulled down the quality of your own life. You have no external repercussion of it at all. And yet your life will be slightly worse. So, what is to be feared and what is not to be feared? When I'm getting involved in something, I have to be extremely frightened of it. When I'm able to stay objective, I am safe. Stay objective. So, the intellect knows what is to be feared and what is not to be feared. Okay, who will read the next paragraph?
I will. Another serious problem that a human faces is his self-inflicted bondage. He has lost the freedom of the self. Sattvic intellect draws the distinction between bondage and liberation. It exposes the human weakness in attaching oneself to one's body, mind, and intellect, in being enslaved by their action and perception, emotion, and thought. It provides one the clarity to recognize the glory and the grace of the self within. The self alone is the seat of true liberation, free from the persecutions of the world. Thus, freed from the bondage, the sattvic intellect directs a seeker to spiritual enlightenment. The summary: sattvic intellect distinguishes between bondage and liberation. True liberation is achieved by recognizing the glory of self within and detaching oneself from body, mind, and intellect. This leads to spiritual enlightenment.
Okay, very good. So the fourth one is The intellect is not able to tell what is freedom and what is bondage. When you tell anybody attachment is bad, they will leave you. They will never leave the attachment. Don't understand how it is a killer in life. It has wrecked relationships, it has wrecked people, it has killed people. Everyone will understand. Strange thing. It has made nobility ignoble. So many people get attached to karma yoga, to bhakti yoga, to jnana yoga. Attachment in the world. Then you come to spiritual life and get attached to spiritual things. We don't get it, do we? What is the damage of this bondage? I don't get it. We just don't seem to understand that love and attachment are diametrically opposed. Love is concern for the other person. Attachment is concern for myself. Love is being in service of the other person. Attachment is expecting the other person to serve you. When we live our life like this, how can we not be in bondage? I'm expecting a person to make me feel nice. Can I control that? Can I control whether he or she will make me feel nice or not? I can never control it. And therefore, I am a miserable, miserable person. But when I change my attention and say, let me serve this person, now I'm in total control. And therefore, I'm a happy person. And I'm a free person. Because now I'm in control. It's so clear, and yet it is so unclear. What is attachment? What is bondage and what is liberation? Objectivity is liberation. When you can look at the person who irritates you the most today and find him or her just funny, you have achieved objectivity. Now, the problem with this statement is people will artificially put something funny on that person. That's not how it is. I don't know if you've seen these young boys. Okay, the young boys, in fact, many of these older ones also, they have a knack of puncturing each other's ego. Any one of them acts funny, they crack a joke in such a way that the fellow is put in his place. And to them, it's entertainment. They understand this fellow is being egoistical. They understand that he's a real idiot. They understand that everybody has their little bit of idiocy. And for them, it's only an occasion to have fun. Haven't you seen them? All the kids behave like that with each other. And then as you grow older, you start getting more and more involved in things. And you can't take it anymore if someone cracks a joke at your expense and you can't see your faults and you want to, anytime somebody says this is wrong with you, you jump to defend it. No, I am not bad. Who told you you're not bad? You are not only bad, you're also an idiot if you give excuses for your badness. We are all bad. We all have faults. We all do nonsense. And we all have the capacity to at least see it. If you get the capacity to see it, one day you will get rid of it. But if you refuse to see it, then you will get bound into that. I think Richard Bach said, make excuses for your faults and you get to keep them. Make excuses for your faults and you get to keep them. But what happens when you keep your faults is along with your faults comes along, give me one word, comes along
Ego. Ego.
Misery.
Ego. Agitation.
No growth.
Ego. Bondage.
Who said that? Jyoti. Only Jyoti is paying attention. Come on. Follow the line of thought. What are we discussing? We're discussing bondage, right? So I don't bring in all sorts of other things. We're discussing bondage. If you insist on sticking to things that you should not be sticking to, what you are inviting upon yourself is bondage. Now, can your intellect fathom this or not? That will determine whether it is a sattvic intellect or not.
Meera room.
Meera, you're...
Sorry.
It is that simple and that complicated. Understanding, at least we should understand, no? That the moment you have a fault, what is really a fault? It's only a desire which you have no governance over. That's all a fault is. So the moment you have that, what is happening? What is the mechanism that's taking place? The mechanism is, I want something, you have to provide it. Now, I have no control over you providing it. You meaning anything outside of me, I have no control over that. But I'm longing for it. Now you see why there's so much stress and agitation. I know I have no control. I am dying to get that thing. And that's my stress. That's a beautiful example. Some examples, they're so classic. We have to always keep them in mind. There is a deluge. There is a strong flood. To escape from that strong flood, a boy grabs onto a tree, climbs up onto a weak branch. There is nothing else in sight. There's nobody there who can save him. He is sitting on that branch, weak branch of a dead tree. And there is a strong current of the flood below. Imagine his heart going thunk, thunk, thunk. And how can it not? If that branch breaks, into the water he goes and he is dead. This is the story of our life. There is a deluge, there is a flood, there is a situation, there's an external challenge. What I am resting on is a weak branch. I have every possibility of this not working out well, and I'm finished. In this condition, you're telling a person, be calm. How is it possible? Huh? And yet, on the same branch can come and sit a bird. And when the branch moves in the wind, the boy is terrified. But on that same branch, moving in the same wind with the deluge below, the bird sings. What is the difference between the child on that, the boy on that branch and the bird? The boy is entirely dependent upon that branch. The bird can use the branch, can enjoy the branch, can be on the branch, but is not dependent upon it. It is dependent upon its wings. This is the difference between bondage and liberation. Bondage is when you use something and you can't do without it. Liberation is when you are using the same thing, but you're more than capable of doing without it. No difference. Bondage and liberation. Bondage doesn't mean, oh my God, he's got a big car, he must be very bound. No, not at all. You could have no car and be more bound. Nothing to do with the externals. Only Where is your dependence? Only thing. Only thing. If you were not dependent, you could go through any storm in life, like that bird. But for that, we need to know. The intellect needs to fathom what is bondage and what is liberation. Selfishness is bondage. Unselfishness is liberation. Unselfishness is bondage. Selflessness is liberation. Staying where you are is bondage. Growing up from where you are is liberation. The sattvic intellect understands what is to be feared, what is not to be feared. What is bondage, what is not bondage. So, 4 characteristics of a sattvic intellect. What is the sattvic intellect doing? 1, it knows which field to enter, which field not to enter. 2, it knows in the field which action to take, which action not to take. 3, it knows what is to be feared and what is not to be feared. 4, knowledge cannot be feared. Ignorance has to be feared. If I don't get it, I am messing up my life. What is the use of saying, oh, that person is not studying? Whether that person is studying or not studying, mera na lena na dena, I have to study. And finally, what is liberation and what is bondage? We think that COVID should get over and then we are liberated from being under lockdown. That thought is bondage. People are leaving their houses like a cork out of a bottle. Kya ho kya raha hai? To be at home is not bondage. To be longing to go out is bondage. To have children is not bondage. To be longing for the children is bondage. To work is not bondage. To be longing for the result of that work is bondage. What is bondage? What is liberation? To be made to stay in a room is not bondage. To be frustrated at staying in a room is bondage. To be poor is not bondage. To be frustrated at being poor is bondage. To be rich is not bondage. To be proud of your riches is bondage. So, sattvic intellect knows what is swadharma, what is paradharma, what ought to be done, ought not to be done, what is to be feared, what is not to be feared, and finally, what is bondage and what is liberation. That is why only sattvic people will make any attempt for spiritual growth, because they understand the difference between this. Otherwise, other people say, liberation from what? Like children, so innocent. Liberation from what? Why are we trying to get liberation? What are we bound to? We are a free country. We are not dependent. We are not under British rule, so we are independent. We are a free country. Where is the bondage? The bondage is not outside, it's in here. Okay. So, sattvic intellect clear? Okay, Rajasic intellect. Let's see. What does the Rajasic guys do? Who will read the Rajasic fellow?
Shall I read?
Please do. Yeah, please do.
Rajasic intellect gives the wrong understanding of righteousness and unrighteousness, an erroneous concept of virtue and vice. It wrongly interprets the ethical and unethical values of life, knows not the obligatory duties and responsibilities in life, and errs in the performance of actions. Rajasic intellect is actually, it understands wrongly dharma and adharma, erroneous analysis and conclusions. I think example could be Arjuna.
Could be what?
Arjuna.
Arjuna. So, what is a Rajasic understanding? It's just a wrong understanding. It doesn't understand what is the field to be entered, what is the field not to be entered, what is the job to be done, what is the job not to be done. Means what action should I take, what action I shouldn't take. It doesn't understand what is bondage, what is liberation, what is frightening, what is not frightening. It doesn't understand these. So that's just a Rajasic intellect. They're fuzzy about these things. They don't quite get it. Most common example, I suppose, would be that anybody would be willing to contribute to social causes, but nobody is willing to contribute towards social consciousness. Everybody is willing to write out a check. I mean, good people are willing to write out a check for good causes, but they cannot even begin to understand what Vedanta will do. So now we have started this whole thing with the Vedanta University. I hope you understand what an uphill task it's going to be. We tell people to support us, because how would we build it ourselves? It's not possible. But rare will be those individuals who will understand the work and therefore support it. Rare. If at all people support it, it will be because they think, oh, this is a nice lady, she's doing something good, kuch kar rahi hai, kuch dekho. Rare will be the individual who understands the importance, the value of the task, and therefore gives. That is a very different form of giving, right? So, wrong understanding. The Rajasic good people will give. They will give. Open heart. Recently, Nilufar asked somebody for 10 lakhs for oxygen, and they gave it. I mean, they gave it. Maybe they're big industrialists, and Parsis are anyway very generous. So yeah, they gave it. Let her ask the same person the same amount for a cause of education, of educating people on life. They'll say, no, we don't do those things. You don't do those things. Do you even understand what you're talking about? If you don't do them, you better start doing them, because that's the one thing that will help all of humanity. So this wrong understanding. How do we serve the world? What is the best way of serving the world? How many problems will we solve in this world? Oh, is it okay now, Varsha? Should I just bring it a bit closer?
No, it's perfectly okay. It must be at her end.
Oh, okay.
No, it's fine now. Yeah.
What is that thing we can do to be of maximum benefit to the world? What is the one thing we can do by which we will have served this world maximum? What is that one thing?
Knowledge.
Okay, what is it we should do?
Self-study.
Education. Educate.
Self-study.
Self-study. That's correct. The best thing we can do for the world is to make ourselves decent people. That's the first most important thing. And then the second most important thing is to provide a conducive environment so that others also can benefit from that greatness. These are the two things we as human beings have to do, every single one of us over here. First, sort ourselves out, okay? That's our first primary responsibility. And then create an environment where other people can also sort themselves out. And because by sorting ourselves out, our lives will be great. And then how do we make other people's lives great? By helping them sort themselves out. Versus starting an orphanage. No doubt very good. Versus looking after the tigers. Versus looking after old age homes. All of these are good. They're very good. Only good and noble charitable people do these kind of things. But it takes an intellect to know what is that, to ask the question. Forget no, to ask the question. What is it that I can do which would be of maximum use in this world? Because I have 24 hours in the day and 100 years of my life. So what is it that I can do that will be able to do, that by which I will be able to do the maximum I can do? What is that thing? To ask that question means you have an interest. To say, oh, this is so good, and start running and doing this and running and doing that. That's called Rajasic Buddhi. So don't understand Rajasic Buddhi as some kind of bad guys and all. No, good guys have a Rajasic Buddhi because their understanding is flawed. Just think, if you want to take care of orphans or any other cause, even oxygen, poured in lakhs and lakhs of rupees, right? What is the financial outlay of these things? They go into thousands of crores. So what does it cost to put up a educational institute? It goes into lakhs. So how much are you spending and what are you getting? Some basic brains it should take, no? Flawed understanding is a Rajasic intellect. Flawed understanding. To address the root of the problem is not sattvic. To know that there is a root, that itself is a big thing. That is the discrimination. To be able to tell your understanding is correct of the situation, and then you will deal with that situation properly. And you'll not be running like a chicken without a head. Because you found the cause, and once you found the cause, finding the solution is only a question of time. If you don't find the cause, I'm sure you've been through this. Somebody in this building had this problem. The smell. Horrible smell. Where's the smell coming from? Most people love to keep their houses clean, and you can see it is clean. It is spotlessly clean. There's a horrible dirty smell. Such horrible dirty smell only comes when a rat is dead somewhere. You clean up everything, you look through everything, there's no dead rat anywhere, but there's a horrible, horrible smell. And you can spend your life putting air fresheners. When will that problem be solved? When somebody eventually finds out where is the dead rat. Because what happened? Somebody's house, that dead rat went into some, like false ceiling, went into that and died, poor fellow. And nobody could find, because the rats can go through the small holes. Couldn't find. One fellow finally came and found the rat, took out the rat. He found the rat. And then it was not very tough. He took out the rat. Whatever they had to break, they broke. They took out the rat. And the problem was solved. Exactly like that. We cannot tell in our lives, where is this dead rat? What is the smell coming from? And instead of looking for the dead rat, air fresheners, it's a horrible smell, let us cover it. And you live with that smell after some time for so long that you don't even know there's a bad smell anymore. You don't know there's a bad smell. So somebody comes and says, yeah, what a horrible smell. We say, what smell? These rich people unnecessarily like to crumble. The poor people are like this. That community is like this. He's just telling you there's a horrible smell which you have got acclimatized. Sometimes don't you think, what hope is there for us? Intellect is only non-functional. Now what hope is there? Sounds very depressing, no? And this is only Rajasic so far. Rajasic people have a wrong understanding. Now let us see our friends, the Tamasic. Unka kya haal hai?
Sankiji, one question.
Mm-hmm.
So it seems like the Rajasic intellect gets all the four things wrong that the Sattvic intellect does. So he'll be stuck in that loop forever. How does he come out?
I don't know. How does he come out? It's impossible. It's almost an impossibility. And that is our story, each one of us. Our understanding is flawed, and how do we come out of that? Our only hope is that each one of us, because we are human beings, have some amount of a sattvic intellect. Every one of us. Now, whether you will go with your sattvic intellect or you will go with rajasic intellect, now Ram Bharose, because you have the capacity to do that. Varsha, you can't answer it by saying Jnana, because why would the Rajasic person take up Jnana? The Rajasic Buddhi, why will it take up Jnana? And when it takes up Jnana, it will take it up in an erroneous manner. Like, for instance, they'll be more interested in how many scriptural books you've read, how many pilgrimages you went through, than in self-purification. You know, even when you start doing higher things, that Rajasic element is going with you. So now you get into competition. Oh, you know what? I get up at 4, but these people don't get up at 4. You get into competition. Oh, look at me. I'm so smart. I can answer all the questions in class. The others are quite dumb. So even if you go into that thing, the Rajasic Buddhi will play itself out, right? So it's a real conundrum. How do you get out? Only hope is one stray little thread we have of sattvic intellect. We got to grab onto it. Yes, you can increase your sattvic intellect by self-study. But the deal is, what would make a rajasic person do that? They wouldn't. I mean, of all the people who come to class, how many times have you heard this? How many people are actually doing it? It'd be nice to take a poll. How many people are actually doing it? Rajasic Buddhi won't do it. They don't get the point. They say, oh, I must make a fuss. Won't get the point. So we created, Mr. Srinivasan came up with the idea, good idea, so that we use everybody's sattva to pull us up. Okay, Meera sattva to bahut hi kam hai. So let us use joint sattva. So we joined. So I think how many people are in that group, Mr. Srinivasan, at the moment?
40 people are there, ma'am.
40 people.
40
Not
people.
bad at all. Very good. Great attempt. 40 people. Yes. Making the attempt is fantastic. Make the attempt at least. And then, of course, your karma goes with you. But 40 people are making an attempt of a group size of 70, 80. Excellent, I would say. Fantastic. If of these even 20 get up, fabulous.
Yes,
fantastic.
Yes, they get up.
They get up. Oh, very good. Excellent.
They post it before 6.
Oh, very good. Yes, that's correct. Then post before 6. Otherwise, any time in the day you post. Correct. Very good. So that's the sattvic intellect, which has been able to say, okay, let's figure out a way of doing this. We have to do it somehow. So let's just figure out a way of doing it. So that element will push us up. Some element we must hold on to. Okay, are you okay, Bharat?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Janki ji?
Okay.
Sorry. To what he just asked you, can we say that situations or problems can force us to change from Rajasic?
Unfortunately, not, Jyoti. You have come to class. You know so many people who have problems and situations and challenges. Go to them and tell them, come to class. Learn about this. See how many people will be agreeable. If problems could bring people to Vedanta, the whole world would be in Vedanta. Because who is the person here who doesn't have a problem? But the problem is not that they don't have problems. The problem is they don't have the sattvic buddhi to identify the root of the problem. How will they find that out? And then why will they go to class? They say, तुम लोग सीखो, तुम लोगों को आता नहीं, हम लोगों को आता है. So, Jyoti, I wish what you said was true, because then Vedanta would be flooded with people. Because just imagine the amount of problems people are facing. Imagine in COVID times, how much sorrow, how many problems, how many challenges. Okay, in our country, just in our country, just in India alone. Sorry, I don't know where you are. So, just in India, or forget India, whatever, we are all over the globe now. So around the world, all the 7 billion people, most of them have faced some problem, of which 73 are in class. That should answer your question. Or if you want to take all the classes, then there are what, 550? I don't know how much. Bharat, how many people are there in Toto now?
Yes, 550.
550. So amongst these 7 billion people who faced a problem, 550 came to Vedanta. And you say, no, but this is only one. There must be so many. Okay, let's give everybody 550. Let's give everybody 1,000 people. How many will you get? Not true, Jyoti. Unfortunately, not true. You can look back on your own life. If you came here out of a problem, then didn't you have many problems before? Why did you not think then? So, not a sustainable theory, Jyoti.
Ma'am, I wanted to know, in the example you gave about finding the cause of the smell. So finding that cause is sattvic buddhi or it's still rajasic?
No, that is sattvic buddhi.
That is sattvic.
Yeah. Finding what is the real cause. Because we don't do that. Suppose you have a fight with your spouse, we won't find the cause. We will start saying he's so bad, he's this, he's that, he's that. Everybody, all the time I'm hearing why people around them are so bad. I mean, like, okay, they may be. What you're saying is right. They are bad, they're horrible. But why are you crying? You're not crying because they are horrible. The cause is different. So just to know the cause is a big step in life.
Janki ji, you mentioned that, when we have expectations, we are bound, and when we do not have, then we are free, liberated. How does one deal with, others around you have expectations of you, sometimes unrealistic expectations? And to what extent, even if the intellect says, see, this is it, then what should one do? I mean, how does one go on fulfilling unrealistic expectations?
You don't fulfill them. The reason you're fulfilling other people's unrealistic expectations, find the cause. Why are you fulfilling it? Because most of the time we are dependent upon them loving us. And that's why we are bending backwards. It is our insanity that makes us do this. It is never somebody else.
So in the context, I can tell you, for example, as people get older, our parents' generation, now they become very demanding and they'll throw, like a child only, tantrums. Then what do we do? I mean, we explain, they will not understand. Then what do?
You don't explain. You don't use a method that doesn't work. You draw your boundaries and stick to it. Everybody will learn. You just draw your boundaries and stick to them. Don't let the boundaries become wavy. Once you let the boundaries become wavy, nobody will stick to it. Draw your lines and stick to it. And within that line, whatever you have decided, do whatever according to you should be done. Harsimran, is it a short question?
Yes, yes, it's a very short one, Hari Om. So this is a follow-up to what Bharat had asked. Now, my question is that if it's so difficult or near impossible, like you said, to find a way out of that loop, then it's slightly counterintuitive, but then why should we even try?
There is no answer to that. Why should you try? I mean, your option is to stay within the loop and be miserable, or do something to get out.
All right, but you also said that it's impossible or really difficult to get out of that loop,
Yeah,
right?
it's not. No, it's not impossible. It is possible. It is just improbable. Even people who come to class, improbable, because what you say and what they hear are two completely different. So it is improbable. It is not impossible. In fact, it is very easy and very possible. Doing Vedanta is the easy thing. It is getting that you have to do it is the difficult thing. I mean, nature rewards you with happiness when you do the right thing. So you do even a little bit, the joy content is so much that it will pull you in, as it were. But the problem is, what will make you convert? That's where the problem is.
Okay,
Yes, you
thank you
can
so
start by having a strong intention. Yeah, but these don't really answer the question, because why would this person have a strong intention to come out? He doesn't recognize it as a loop. So it is improbable that anyone comes out. And if by any stroke of good fortune we are able to even see that, we should get down on our knees and thank the good Lord. I don't know what made me see it, but I saw it. And having seen it, then it's easier. Okay, so that's it for today. Hari Om.